Our next speaker is super honored for me to introduce her. She's a friend, colleague. Sydni Gwinn owns I won't say it's a very small shop, but it is a home-based detail business in Boise, Idaho. And her journey is really remarkable, and it's very cool. A lot of you may have seen her on social media, but much like Rennie talked about this morning, that isn't a journey that started 3 weeks ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. It's been a long journey, and it's had a lot of iterations. And so her story is, I hope, will inspire some of you who are looking to start your own business at home or get a fixed location or looking to try and figure out where's your niche. You can take anything from Sydni today, take from her that. Find your niche and how to get there and what that journey is like. So without much further ado, certified detailer, skills validated detailer, Sydni Gwinn.
Well, I just want to start off by saying welcome. I'm so happy that we are back here at MTE, and I'm super excited to see everybody's faces. So thank you for coming back from lunch and coming to my presentation. So like Keith said, I'm going to be talking today on running an unconventional business in a conventional industry. So the detailing industry, there's a lot of just kind of standard ways that detailers do things. And for me, without really being intentional about it, I did everything the opposite way. So we're kind of go through my journey, where that's ended up, and I'm hoping that everybody can pull out some nuggets of what I did on how I got where I am now and have a successful business, and that it will help you in yours. So we will just get started. So who am I real quick? I'm gonna skip the first part of my life, but basically in 2010, I resigned from my old life, which was a dental office administrator. So that is what I went to school for. That's what my degree is in. That's what I did. Then 2010 happened. I think everybody kind of had a shift in their life that year. And I decided that my kids were 5 and 2. I wanted to move back home. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, and I wanted to move back home. And so at that point, my husband and I took a 75% reduction in income and decided to move back home. So that was where I had some choices to make there. I have been married for 20 years to this guy right here. His name is Mike. He's awesome. We have a daughter, Delaney. She's 16. She shares my love of cars and volleyball, and I refer to her as my broke little best friend. And so we're going to talk more about her later. And then we have a 13-year-old. His name is Tristan, and he loves football and basketball. I am a pet lover. I have a bulldog named Piper. She just turned 7 yesterday. And she is there in the back of the Jeep. She's so cute. I also have a tabby cat named Bristol who didn't make the slide. And like he said, I am the owner and operator of iWash Auto Detailing in Boise, Idaho. Since 2013, I am a brand ambassador for P&S Detail Products, which I've been doing that for just about 3 years now. And I'm a 2-time member of the McCall's official detailing team in Monterey, California. And I am one of the proud female detailers in the Detail Mafia. And I am the coffee half of Beadmaker and Coffee, which is our bi-weekly product Q&A on P&S Detail Products with one of my very best friends, Kyle Clark. So how I got into detailing. So my story kind of started in early 2013. So we moved to Boise at the end of 2010, but my detailing journey started in early 2013. So we moved up to a place called Hidden Springs, which is a planned community in the foothills of Boise. And it's a very wild planned community. Just to give you a picture, this is the photo here, but it's kind of like the Stepford Wives meets Mayberry is kind of the best way that I can describe it. And our first home was right outside of the town Mercantile, and all the residents that live there have to get their mail at the community mailbox. So every afternoon, everyone was leaving the Mercantile parking lot, and my house was just right outside that. And I had a black car. When I worked at the dental office, I used to have a detailer that came and cleaned my car constantly for me at the dental office. So when we moved up here, suddenly I was the only one that was gonna be able to wash my car. No one was gonna do it for me. My husband was at work all day. So I was out there washing it like every other day, literally. And everybody would pull out and do the proverbial, do you want to wash my car next? You know, so at that point, I was kind of on a journey in my life. I had met with some, life coaches and things like that, and was like, what should I be doing? I did have a major love for cars. I'm a big race fan. My history goes way back with cars. So I thought, well, everybody keeps stopping and asking, maybe I should say yes and charge people for it, right? So I made a post, so my husband and I obviously talked about it, made a post on my community page that I knew how to detail cars and, you know, wash cars. Kind of just threw it out there thinking that I would do 2 to 3 cars a month. And from that very first post on our community page, I think I had 7 full details that first week, and it's been crazy ever since. So that was really cool. But at this point, I only had my passion for cars and no formal detailing. I did know what I was doing, but really no formal training at this point. And really, I didn't even know there was a detail industry. I honestly did not know that like detail shops were a thing. I mean, I knew I had the guy that came to my you know, office, but I didn't know there was a detail industry, so I wasn't really connected to anybody. So this was my first shop. It was literally a patch of concrete. So the house we lived in, the garage was packed full. It was a rental. So I couldn't pull cars in. So literally right there was where I worked, in that little square. This Corvette was one of the first cars that I did. And so my plan was just to work outside on a sloped concrete. It wasn't really great. And at this point, we still were living off of a very reduced income, and so I didn't really have any money to put into the business. So I had what I had on hand to wash my own car, and I had about $45 cash that on that Sunday I took down to like the local auto parts store and kind of purchased a couple things, right? And so we only stayed at this location for 2 months. I needed a bigger driveway. Once I obviously did the 7 first details that month, or that week, it didn't work out. So we decided that we needed a bigger driveway. This photo is not actually my photo, which this is kind of just a tip. Make sure you take photos of yourself working, because I have none. So I don't actually have a photo of, but this was a very accurate depiction of what I had on hand at the time. And then just kind of a fun side note, right before I opened my detailing business, I was painting custom Power Wheels, which was really fun. It was awesome. There was no money in it. So my lesson learned from this shop was, you know, kind of going back, if you've ever heard Steve Harvey talk on Jump. So it's just basically, you know, dream big and just do it. Just jump in both feet, just do it. If you have goals in life and you want better for yourself, you want to be an entrepreneur, just jump in both feet and do it. So then second shop, which was still a driveway. The middle picture there is the actual garage, but you can see the walls are right next to the garage door. So there's absolutely no room to work, so I could not work inside. But I did have closer access to my supplies, which was good. And I had that nice pillar down the center of the driveway, which was really handy. So again, I was outside on the driveway. I did have a little bit of shade here. And honestly, when we moved into this location, I assumed, because I lived in Boise, Idaho, that I would be shut down during the winters. So I was kind of limiting till, it doesn't matter, I can work outside, it's no big deal. That first winter, I literally worked on ice the entire winter. It was like 11 degrees in Boise, and I skated around every car on ice the whole winter. It was awful. It was in this location where I started watching some YouTubes, using a little bit better products. But still, I virtually had no contact with the industry. I didn't know there was an industry. I mean, there was some YouTube videos, and that was fine, but it was, you know, it was just me. So literally, I was just known as the girl who cleaned cars. So in my neighborhood, like I said, it was Stepford Wives, and I didn't really fit that part. And so with the other moms in the neighborhood, that made it a little challenging. So, you know, it's funny when we think about being a female in a male-dominated industry, you would think that more trouble would come from the men, but I actually had a lot more pushback from women. And I was looked kind of down upon. And that, for me, was one of the harder things to overcome, was overcoming with my peers, which were women, that I was an auto detailer. And so my lesson at this shop that I learned was, don't limit yourself. So when you're starting out your business or you're wanting to make a choice to grow, don't try to keep yourself in a box and limit what your growth potential is. That was a huge mistake that I made here, because we went through all this effort to get into this home, and then the next winter, there's no way I was gonna work outside again. So don't limit yourself, you know, make sure that your choices you're making, you have room for growth in all your decisions that you make. Okay, so third shop, this one I was finally inside. So I had an actual working garage. I had an 18-foot by 9-foot door, double bay. It was super nice, but it was very plain Jane. All the walls were just yellow, and all of my family stuff was in my shop with me. So I was really excited to move over here. However, in my neighborhood, this was what I found quickly was the wrong side of the tracks. So where I was before, I had all the support of my HOA, I had all the support of my neighbors. It was great. I was outside at both the other locations, so everyone was always walking around, chatting with me. And that's actually how I gained a ton of customers, was by people walking by. And so all of a sudden in this shop, I was on the wrong side of the tracks. I had neighbors that didn't want me there, which was funny because I was inside and they couldn't hear me, so I never could figure that out. But was definitely on the wrong side of the tracks. We called it Hater Lane. But here, since I was suddenly inside and I didn't have any contact with anybody else, kind of the pressures of just being the lady that cleans cars kind of got to me. I was very lonely. I didn't have anyone to talk to anymore. I was tired of being cold. I was tired of being hot. I was tired of being dirty. And honestly, in the fall of 2015, I was ready to close my shop. Like, I was right there, working towards it, wasn't gonna do it anymore, I was just gonna go back to the dental field. And then a friend of mine asked me to go to SEMA with him. And I said yes, because I'd always wanted to go to SEMA. And it was funny because it was here where I realized there's a detail industry. So that fall, we went to SEMA, and it was life-changing. And I threw this picture in here of, you can see the post was from me, November 4th of 2015. What I thought was funny was when I was going through my pictures, is this was when Mopar was doing the wide body concept. And what's funny is I own that car now, and I never realized I had this picture, and I didn't even remember that car. So I threw that in because it was kind of funny. For me, it was like looking back and going, all these things have changed my life. And so that was kind of cool. So again, SEMA, didn't know that. Who knew? I didn't know there was a detail industry. So all of a sudden I showed up to SEMA, went into the North Hall, started visiting some booths. I just remember being in awe. Now, the one thing that I do want to mention about this was when I went to SEMA in 2015, so that was what, 7 years ago? No, 6 years ago. Just over 6 years ago. When I would go up to the booths and tell people I was a detailer, I would get like a side eye. Like, I would say at that point in the industry, there was female detailers, but I don't think a lot of them were public about it or, known about it. So there wasn't a whole lot of, it was a lot of, really, and what I noticed is my husband was with me, and all of the vendors wanted to talk to him, and then he'd go, oh no, that's not my deal, it's her. So I'm pointing that out because later we're going to talk about how far we've come. So then the other funny thing that happened is, again, because remember I was ready to shut down, is I kept going to some of the booths, and a couple of them said, oh, do you know about the rag company? You live in Boise? And I was like, what's the rag company? No, I've never heard of it. Well, the rag company was just coming onto the scene themselves at that point. And so when I got back to Boise, December 2015, January 2016, I went down and investigated who was the rag company. So I showed up at their first store. It was a very small, off the way store, and I immediately met the owners, Jeff and Carolyn Hennon, and their son Dane and John, who's here today. If you see him, he'll be at the booth. And it was just the four of them running the shop. It was pretty small. They just started to carry detailing chemicals, so originally they were just microfiber. And so really that year, 2016, was the vital shift in my business. I started realizing that there was a detail industry, there was support out there for me. I had been completely alone, didn't have anybody to talk to before that. And so every week I would go in and buy some rags, buy some new chemicals. It was kind of exciting. It was finally somebody for me to talk to. So I would purposely only buy a little bit so that I'd have to go back in a couple days. And what was funny about this was I would go in and they knew that I was alone. I think I had shared with them that I didn't have any support. And so they kept telling me, oh, we have this other detailer that comes in. His name's Levi. You should come in and meet him. And I just kept going, I don't need to know Levi. I was just really like, I don't need to know Levi. So the point of this is, how funny is it that I said for a year, I don't need to know Levi Gates. So imagine that. So in 2017, Levi started working full-time at the rag company, and then he became a huge mentor to me. Obviously I met him, and he became an instant best friend and such a huge mentor for me, and that really just completely changed the trajectory of my business. So that year, 2017, what was great about TRC2 was that I got to try all the new products. So everything that came through there, I got to try. So Detail Factory brushes, Solution Finish, bead maker, which we'll talk about that, how that changed my life later. So that was kind of fun. So my lesson learned here is just always keep learning and never feel alone. Always reach out. I know, now over the last few years, I've really realized that there's some really amazing mentors in this industry, and, we all love to support each other. It's not competition, and so that's my lesson here is reach out, ask the questions, find people that you connect with, find people that run a business similar to yours, and reach out and just keep learning always. Even 5 years ago, like processes, things have changed so much. So just always keep learning. And I still learn new things every day. So then in 2018, this was my final shop. So these two pictures, for those of you who have seen my garage tours, you might recognize those baskets, kind of known for my baskets. So this was my shop when we first opened up in my current location. So the baskets have been there since day one, which is fun for me. But my goal in moving to this shop was to eliminate all my family's personal space in my shop. I wanted it to be a true detail shop. I wanted it to have a different feel. I really wanted to focus on control of my schedule. I was very busy at the time. My business was very solid, very successful, but I needed to rein it in. It was starting to own me. So when we moved here, I really took control of my schedule, started really reinvesting in my shop. My customers have stuck with me through the whole time from the driveways. And so part of it was not only did I want a shop for myself, but I also really wanted to give back to my customers. So a lot of it that goes in, my heart that goes into it is for my customers. It's for their experience. So that I really wanted to give them that. So my lesson learned here is that if everything is going well, break it, fix it, and make it better. So that was kind of my philosophy here. So everything was going great, but I had to tear it all down and make it really great. So this is my current shop. If you have not seen my garage tour videos, you can look at them on YouTube. My latest one just came out because we just refinished a bunch. We changed the lights and the flooring and all that kind of stuff. So that is really cool. So if you want to know about how my shop runs, just check that out on YouTube because there's a whole video there. Okay, so then real quick, I just want to cover, because this is part of my journey, is my story with P&S. So like I mentioned, when I moved into my new home, my business was kind of on autopilot. It was going great. I was trying to fine tune some things. And when I don't remember exactly where I came across Express Interior, but at this point, it was not part of the double black system. So the rag company didn't have it and I couldn't get it anywhere. The only place I could get it was from Auto Geek, and there's not a lot of places further from Boise, Idaho than Florida. So I couldn't get it right when I needed. So I had heard from Levi that Rennie, Bob, and Dave were gonna be making a business visit to TRC, and this was in March of 2019. And I heard that they were coming, so I asked Levi if I could come, bust in on the party. And so when the three of them arrived at TRC that morning, I was actually standing there at the counter waiting. And what I wanted to ask them was, I had a couple product questions that I wanted to ask them. And mainly I wanted to know, where was Express Interior? Like for me, it was life-changing. I loved Express Interior. Couldn't get enough of it. And so I wanted to know how it was going to be more readily available. Little did I know at the time it was already in talks for it to go into double black. But so it was funny because I went down there with the intention of just asking product questions. And then that afternoon, Rennie texted me and asked if they could come see my shop, and I was like, you realize it's literally just a garage shop, right? And I was actually really embarrassed. But they came up, we had an awesome talk, it was really great, and I just shared with them, my feelings about my business, what I had done, what I had been through, and a couple months later, my phone rang, and it said, maybe Bob Phillips, Hayward, California. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? But anyway, so that was awesome. So obviously Bob said, I don't know where this is gonna go, but we, really love your enthusiasm, your authenticity, the way, you feel about the business and everything. We would like you to have you as part of Team P&S. So in July of that year, I went and trained with Rennie up in Big Bear. And then in August, went to the McCall's detailing team, and then SEMA in November. And then the rest of it is, I'm sure most of you follow, it's just been a crazy ride. It's been so awesome. It's just evolved, into Beat Maker and coffee, and, I go to do trainings with Keith all the time, and a lot of, product testing and stuff, so it's so awesome to be part of the team. And then just last fall, I became an official Mafia member, so that was awesome. So that's kind of my quick story there. But my lesson learned here, and Rennie talked about this a little bit in his presentation this morning, was I wasn't looking for anything in the industry. I wasn't looking, to be a brand rep. I wasn't looking for any of that, and I don't even think they were looking for me. But it was really just authentic and my heart and my passion. And so that's just a big lesson for me is, let yourself get your business going, be successful. And if you do want to go further in the detailing industry, just let it happen organically. Don't go searching for it. And so that was the biggest thing for me is everything with P&S has been completely organic, and it's made it really fun. Okay, so now to the business part. So my marketing strategy. So this is one of those things that I have not done anything normal, nothing. Again, like I mentioned, I had no budget, right? When I first opened, I had zero budget for marketing. Actually, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing it, but I had $0 for marketing. So I did have a very captive audience where I was, obviously. I was in this confined community. So my only marketing strategy was word of mouth, and a lot of it. So I would basically literally ask every single customer, please let your friends know what I'm doing. I would give them 2 cards, I would let them know that this helps me, that I don't advertise anywhere, that I would really appreciate, if they liked their results, that I would really like it if they would share. And they all did. And to this day, I've never added any money to my marketing budget. So I literally in 9 years have not spent $1 on marketing the whole time. Now, I could have, but I never found that I needed to, because my system of just asking for referrals was 100% effective. So I didn't need anything else. Now, how we relate that to you is, even though, yes, I had a very captive audience, but you can get a captive audience. So you might have to go about it a different way than I did. But what I find really helpful is those community Facebook pages. So find the right communities to put yourself in. You don't have to live in that community to advertise in that community. And all you need is basically one customer from that community, and you say, hey, do you have a neighborhood, Facebook page? Would you mind, letting people know that you got your car detailed or whatever? I mean, literally just ask. What's going to be the worst thing? Just that they don't do it? It doesn't hurt you. So just ask. So find those community pages, find those, mom groups or whatever, and be advertising to the right people. Don't just advertise to the masses, right? And then I put on here website and social media. I do think that obviously having a website is very important, and it's a big joke on the team that I don't have one. I still don't have one. Maybe someday, but I don't have one. And then social media, definitely use your social media. But here's my tip for social media. Don't just market yourself to other detailers, because they are not going to pay you. They won't. No one's paid me yet. Don't market yourself to other detailers. That is like 80% of what I see out there. So make sure you are marketing to your customers. Ask your customers to like your social media. Ask them to follow you on social media. Let them know, and just like this, let them know, hey, you'll be able to see when I'm doing, continuing educations and taking trips and things like that, or working on special projects. Ask them to follow your social media, and then market to your customers, because this is how you'll get the word of mouth going. So, big tip, don't market to other detailers. We love before and after pictures, the 50/50s, the before and afters. Those are awesome for customers to see, especially customers that don't really know what a car detail is, which I cannot believe how many people I still run into that are like, I didn't even know what a car detail was. So make sure you're marketing to the right person. And then brand yourself. I think that your brand, your logo, your colors, that all really, make sure it identifies with you. As you saw on the beginning, and we'll see at the end, my logo, a couple years ago, probably about 4 years ago now, I started coming up with a concept in my head, what logo really defines me? And, so I came up with the, female silhouette holding the polisher and a Jeep, because I see a lot of recreational vehicles where I live. And, I just wanted it to literally emulate me. And my customers love it, everyone comments on it. And so what I feel is that when people see my card, they remember that. It describes everything that they're gonna experience in my shop literally in my logo and my branding. So I think that's really important. So all of that I did with no money, which was awesome. So my service style. This is another area that I'm super unique, especially in my area, but this is also what completely sets me apart from other shops in my area. So I run a very boutique style, Nordstrom type personal shopper feel. When my customers come in, it's all about them. You know, they know that their car is the only one for that day. It's getting all of my attention, only my attention, not, you know, other people that they haven't met or don't see. So this one was important for me. I really wanted to give them that spa-like feel because we all love going to spas. I know you guys even do too. It's very nice to be pampered. And so basically I just make my whole service from when they pull in to when they pick up. It's just a whole vibe. And it's just very, you can just tell everyone's smiling. Everyone's always happy in my shop. And so that's awesome. So it's a total vibe, and if you can imagine when they pull up to my garage door, you know, it's just a regular house, and I open the garage door and they see the whole shop, and they're just like, this is so cool. So it's kind of, it's just really fun for them, and like I talked about earlier, it's just all about the customer experience for me. Services I offer, this is again, I am super stingy on what services I offer. I only offer a couple, and it's like I'm an all or nothing girl, right? So if I do paint correction, I require a ceramic. I've just switched to that like 2 years ago. It 100% works for me, but I have been burned too many times by, I am too passionate, and I know that about myself. And if I paint correct that car and then they go park in the sprinkler or run it down a tree branch, it literally breaks my heart. So I just have a rule. I'm not putting in the effort to correct the paint unless we're gonna protect it. And when I say it like that, they're like, oh yeah, okay, totally get it. I mean, it's their only option, right? And then on the details, I know that a lot of people are really successful with the level 1, level 2, you know, whatever. I am an all or nothing. So I only do the whole thing, all the way. And when customers say, well, do you do an express interior? No, because I have a certain level for myself that I want, and it's my shop. That time in my shop is very valuable. And so I don't want a car sitting there for 3 hours just to do an express interior. It doesn't make sense for my business model. So they only get one option, and it's all the way. And for me, I just explain it to them that I don't know what to leave. I don't know what to leave. If anybody wants to fill me on the express interiors, I have no idea what to leave. I only know to check all the boxes. So that's all I offer. And I just tell them if they want something less than that, then we're not a good match, and that's totally fine. You know, and that's the other thing, like, set your customers up to be really happy with your service style, and you're not gonna match with everybody, and that is okay. It's totally okay. So those are the two things basically that I offer. So one or the other. But I promise you it has made life so easy. It is so easy. I don't have to talk about price. I don't have to talk about services. It's that. I do though do a couple add-ons. Obviously I will do headlight correction, water spot removal, and I do a lot of boats and smaller like travel trailers and things like that. I don't do RVs because I'm way too small for that. So that is my service style, so just very personal touch. And then as far as education and retention with my customers, I am the type that, again, because of the marketing, right, I don't want to have to keep finding new customers. I just want to keep the ones that I've already gotten. So I don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. I don't want to keep getting in cars that haven't been detailed in 10 years. I don't want to do those dirty cars. So all my new customers, I do whatever I can to retain them and get them on a maintenance schedule. So I do a lot of education with my customers, over education. I educate them on the current condition of their vehicle, what they're gonna expect from that day's service, and then I also let them know what's possible. If they even care about that, right? So if they don't care that their car's perfect, then we don't even talk about it. So we talk about what's possible, and then I always educate them on, okay, here's where we are on this vehicle, and if you're in the market for a new vehicle, and I mean, I work into this in conversation, but you know, if you're gonna get a new vehicle, let's talk about how that's gonna go. And I really educate them on just what the dealership does, what I do different, and in my town, I'm kind of known by the dealerships. They don't really like me because all of my customers go in and they go into the F&I and they go, oh no, I can't buy anything extra. I can't buy anything extra. The Lyle Pearson in Boise, they're like, is Sydney your detailer? And they grumble because I say, don't take any stickers off, don't wash it, don't touch it, I'll take care of it. And it honestly makes such a big difference. And so my customers really, they stand by it because I've done all the education. So some of these things might take years to come back to you, but I've done all the education and now it's like paid back tenfold, right? So always make sure you're educating everybody. And then everyone asks me the question, how do you still detail all winter long? Because I do live in a 4-season, but like the last several months we've had nothing but snow. And I don't have any customers cancel. And this one line is what keeps me in business all year round. It's not about being pretty, it's about being protected. So that is the first thing that I tell my customers when they become a customer. I let them know, here's my philosophy. It's gonna rain. There's gonna be pollen. There's gonna be snow. There's gonna be sand. And I just say, we're still doing the detail because it's about being protected. It's not about being pretty. And that, they totally get it. It never comes up again. No one ever says, oh my gosh, I'm gonna drive my car out and I'm on 8 inches of snow. They do it. And that is just that one line of education. So that one's a really important one for me. And then I go back to my dental days of having the recall system. If you think about when you go to the dentist, right when you're leaving, what do? Do you wanna schedule your next appointment? You wanna schedule your 6-month appointment? So I do the same thing with my customers. We schedule their 6-month recall right then. And so basically my schedule about 5 years ago just literally started repeating every 6 months, and it made it so easy, so easy. And then I got to start being really picky on what new customers I took. So, and then I just stress with them that their vehicles are their second biggest investment. And nowadays with the car prices, I feel like some people, their cars cost more than their houses. So, I just let them know that we have to maintain this too. You can't, just the materials. It doesn't matter about the cleanliness, but just maintaining the materials inside and outside. So I just do a lot of education on that, and I retain almost all of my customers. And so then I mainly now just do maintenance details. And most of them come in with the vacuum lines from 6 months ago, which is so great. I love it. But I still charge them, and that's another thing that a lot of people will charge less for maintenance details, and I still charge the normal price, and they still, it's great. I love cleaning a clean car. So big on education, and then you retain your customers. You're not out there looking for new customers all the time. Community involvement. So this is a big one. So my choice of community involvement was I started a car show about 8 years ago. I started it thinking it would just be 20 of my neighbors parked at the Merc having coffee, but it turned into this enormous car show. Now it is one of the most unique and sought after shows in Idaho, actually. But what this brought for me was I was not wanting to start a car show to get the owners of the cars as customers. That was not my goal. My goal was to be involved in the community. It was my way to reach out to the automotive industry within, my town. So it got me connected with them. It also got me connected with a lot of other people like realtors and business owners, medical care providers, because we were going to them for like sponsorships of our show and things like that. And so it got me connected with my whole community, not like my neighborhood, but Boise in general. And so that was my outreach to the community, which then they obviously knew what I did, and those were the people that I got as customers. It wasn't the car show participants. And quite honestly, I didn't want those cars. They make me nervous. So that is where I've gotten most of my customers from doing this community outreach. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do community outreach. You can do chamber work. You can, join, what's the Toastmaster?
Toastmaster.
Yeah, Toastmaster clubs. You can do, in my area, there's lots of just entrepreneur groups that meet for coffee and things like that. Like, go find that stuff. Get connected to your community. That is where your best customers are gonna come. And I promise you that through word of mouth and through community involvement, you will not struggle with people trying to ask you about your prices. Those are the ones that are calling you from the phone book. I know we don't have a phone book anymore. I don't need to date myself, but you know what I mean. Those are not the best customers. So get involved in your community. That's a huge one. And then a couple home-based shop tips. So, when I first started, home-based businesses weren't really that big of a thing. They were kind of known as maybe the more on the enthusiast end, and people didn't really take detailers serious that worked out of their home. But now it's becoming a much bigger thing. just because you can run a really successful business out of your home. So a couple things, do your research though, for sure. So if you guys remember the story about Hater Lane, you have to do your research. So I had the backing from the HOA, but I did not have a home occupation permit from the county. And when they come knock on your door and half your income is being produced in your house, that's a scary knock on the door. So do your research. If you're looking at moving into an area or operating out of a certain area, just do your research ahead of time so that you know if you are totally legit to be there. So just make sure you do that, and then do everything right from the beginning. So get a business license, because that shows legitimacy to your customers. You know, when you have that stuff hanging on your wall, it shows them that you're doing the right thing. Insurance, you have to make sure on this that the insurance, work with a broker that can make sure that he has you understand what is allowed and what's not. Because you have, it's called garage keepers insurance, and it's a lot different than a commercial policy. There's a lot of things that are excluded from garage keepers that can get a lot of people in trouble. Like I cannot use a lift, I can't take wheels off, and I cannot take seats out. So that's a huge deal. So just make sure you're insured. I also, because I do provide pickup and drop off service for my customers, I have an extra rider on my insurance that covers just me driving the vehicle. That is not covered on your normal insurance, and your regular car insurance will deny the claim if you were doing it for the purpose of business. So just make sure you're covered, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing RVs or planes or, you know, whatever special you're doing, just make sure you're covered. And then organize and maximize your space. This was something that I became an expert at over 9 years, right? It didn't happen day one, but I learned to keep making my space work better for me, because if you're organized, it saves so much time. I remember when I worked in disarray, and it would take so much longer, and time is money. So make sure you're organized and maximize your space. Working bubble, and this goes down to risk. So your working bubble is what is the space you have around the vehicle. So like that one garage I showed you, I couldn't pull the car in because there was no room to work around it. So you don't want to be boxing yourself in where you've got, you know, if you're pulling behind a vacuum or something, you want to make sure you have a good bubble around the car, just to minimize your risk as, you know, as the detailer. Use safe chemicals, use safe processes. I think working in a home shop, you just have to just really minimize your risk. That's a big one. Pros of working at home. Super flexible hours. I haven't missed anything with my kids. That's been great. Very little overhead. There's a ton of business advantages to working out of your home. Not really any headaches as far as like people to answer to, you know, I have to check in with anybody. You don't have to, you know, it's basically it's just all me, right? So I only have to answer to myself, which I'm not the best boss, I will say. I'm not. I kill myself basically. But so it's only me to answer to. So then the cons. There's no boundaries, so you don't have like the 5 o'clock close time. So customers, you know, show up at 10 o'clock to pick up their car. They'll keep calling you because they know that it's just you're working out of your house. And so there is some loss of boundaries, loss of personal space. And then as much as it's a pro, it's also a con. It's just you, babe. So if I'm sick, hurt, need to take vacation, it's just me. There's no one for me to fall back on. So, but that's okay. Pro and con both ways. Yeah. Uh-huh. You can ask them now, or you can ask them at the end too.
Okay, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
All right, my last name is Florida, Jacksonville, Florida.
Uh-huh.
I just had a quick question about the insurance, because I was
Yeah.
trying to look at it right now.
Uh-huh.
But I asked another mentor of mine, he said he Ubers, he pays for his customers Ubers to minimize
Yeah.
risk of driving a vehicle. So I don't think
Yeah.
he does is picks it up and just drives it in his driveway.
Yep.
Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, and there's a lot of people that do that. I don't do that because I pay for the insurance so that I can go get it. And for me, just in my business model, I kind of treat that almost like a concierge service. So I don't mind doing it. I do have a radius in which I'll go pick them up. But the Uber system is very popular. I've heard of a lot of detailers that do that, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that insurance deal. But I have had several where I'll take their car back, and if I haven't left my car there, then I'll Uber home. And that usually works out. And I've had a couple customers, if they've dropped their car off, I will pay for their Uber, but you know, it's all wrapped into the cost. But yes, Uber is a great way to go. For me though, in my neighborhood, it is hard to get an Uber up there. So for me, I don't mind paying the extra insurance so that I can go pick them up. But I think if that's something that, you know, makes you feel like you're under risk, I think Uber's a great way to go, for sure. So obviously I don't have any employees, but I do have one. So my lesson here is that engage your family, right? Because now I was spending a ton of time in my garage, a ton of time working. So I really needed to engage my family. My daughter, Delaney, started, helping me, right? Not really working for me when she was about 6 or 7. So this is her working up here. So if you will notice, I didn't have a lot of safety control. There was no shoes being worn in the early days. She wears shoes now. But so this went from just having my kids out there with me when they were small and helping, giving them, you know, the floor mats and just stuff to do, that she literally is an employee now and can do a full detail. She's literally like a miniature version of myself. She does a great job. She does full details by herself now. This picture here is her working on a 308 Ferrari that she services every week by herself. The owner's all about it. She services all of his old classic cars. And so she has taken over my wash portion of my business. I don't wash cars anymore. So she does that all on her own. She makes a very good income. She loves it. And so she's been working with me for a long time, and she's very into having her own money, and she doesn't ever expect me to give her any money. And then this picture here is she got her license last year, and she got a brand new car, and she 100% pays for it by herself. And that was her goal in life, and so we allowed her to do that, and she is dead set on it. And so she is super awesome. So she is my one employee, which is awesome. So this was just, if you are running a home-based business, or even not, just engage your family, because we take a lot of time away from our families to do this business. And so engage them however you can. So we have an all-girls garage, and she is probably the biggest product critic out there. So if anybody needs to know if something's good or not, she will tell you all about it. So this has been fun for me to have her work with me. And then finally, my biggest thing about my journey that I've been on is just have passion for what you're doing. You know, there was a lot of years in there where I lost my passion, and it was just such hard work. So remember your why, remember your passion. I have a quote up here that from Eleanor Roosevelt says, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence with every experience in which you stare fear in the face." This became a quote that I had to read over and over again. So for some of you that may not know, 3 years ago, obviously I worked alone, right? But I never went outside my comfort zone. I never went outside my bubble. I hadn't traveled, I didn't go on airplanes, I had never stayed in a hotel room by myself. I had never done anything out in public. I was very private. And so this has kind of been something I've lived off of for the last couple years. And then this picture right here, I posted after my first trip to McCall's. When I got home, I had a major download and reflection upon, you know, what had been happening the last couple months. And so I have it says, do one thing every day that scares you. And this can make life a lot of fun. And I don't mean in your detailing business, I mean just stretch yourself, you know, do something that scares you, think big, dream big. You know, even for me, talking to you guys today, I've never done this before, and you know, it scared the hell out of me. So thank you guys for sitting through my presentation. As far as being a female detailer in this industry, it has changed a lot, and I think that that's really awesome. You know, I would hope that I've had a part in that, just to show women that we can be strong and we can be out there and, you know, show that we know what we're doing, and that in some cases, you know, I think that there's certain things that women are better at. And so I'm just happy to be part of that, you know, getting the industry to accept women better. And I think that it has really changed. I mean, it's really awesome right now. And so I will continue to do what I can just to make sure that, you know, we are out there and proud and loud, and, you know, you guys are all here. It's great to see so many women in this room, so that's super awesome. So basically just find your passion and, you know, build on it, dream big. And, you know, if you have any questions for me, always feel free to reach out to me. That's my last message is I went so many years without having a mentor. So that is something that I am very passionate about right now, is making sure that I can help as many people. You know, that's why Kyle and I started Bead Maker and Coffee. I just want to be there, you know, to help anybody that has any questions or challenges, you know, just to be somebody in the industry that people can rely on or ask questions, or even just, you know, vent to. always awesome. So thank you guys for coming today. I very much appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, I think we have a few minutes, don't we? Yeah, we have a few minutes. So if anybody has any questions, or if we run out of time today, I will obviously be at the P&S booth the next 2 days, which is booth number 911, right? So I will be there, and I'm sure I'll be around. And
Love you, Sydney.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I have 10-year-old here.
Yeah, that's about right when she started like doing it real serious. Yeah, it's so awesome. And she loves it now. She works like 4 hours a week and makes so much money.
Hands-on involved child.
Yeah, it's great. She loves it. Loves it.